All right, it's 7 o'clock, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. Welcome to the 2020 AGM for Track 3. My name is Dave Sprague. I serve on the board of directors for Track 3, and tonight we'll be serving as your chairperson. I should say that I am located in the Track 3 offices in Etobicoke, and joining me here is fellow board member Dave Umbaugh, who is handling all things technical for us. And also our illustrious president, Paul Rogers, is here. We are social distancing. Please don't worry, we're at least 2 meters apart here at this table. A few meters away also at her desk is Kathy Saunders. Most of you know her. She is the person who pretty much single-handedly and capably steers this Track 3 ship of ours. So thanks for Kathy being here. The four of us here and almost all the other board members are with us tonight, participating from home as you are as well. We are starting shortly, but we do have a few, not really orders of business, but some instructions really, because this is a strange and unprecedented time. And I'd be a millionaire if I had $1 for every time I've heard that phrase in the last 7 months. First of all, it's about navigating Zoom for our virtual AGM. Basically, everything is there on your screen. As you were invited in from the meeting, from the wait room, your mic is muted. Please leave your mic muted unless you're called upon. At some point in time, you may be called upon for sure. At the bottom of your screen, if you haven't used Zoom before, although most of you probably have, judging by the share price, you could go back. Sorry, Dave, just one more screen, please. Thank you. You will see a participants button. That's going to be very important for us tonight. This is where you will raise your hand later on to ask a question, and we will be using it for some other reasons as well. So if you click once on participants, you'll see a window on the right side of your screen. You can see everybody there, and you'll see a raise your hand button. So you might want to keep that up. The chat button next to it in the middle of the bottom of your screen, you aren't able to communicate individually amongst yourselves, but you are able to type questions to the group, and we will only be monitoring questions later in the meeting, later on after we do most of our voting. So there's no point in typing in there right now. We will be using chat for some other reasons as well. And once again, just like for participants, if you click on chat once, you'll have that window on the right side of your screen as well. Please make sure that your mic is muted, because it's very difficult, as you're well aware with these meetings. If there's some extra chatter, it's hard to hear. In your particular window, you can click on the 3 dots and you can rename yourself. Please don't do that. Use your proper name. We don't want to see Spuds Finnegan and Frank Sinatra up there. It makes it difficult for voting purposes later on. In the top right, you can change your view. I would suggest speaker view side by side. And we are, for your notes, recording this for viewing later. The video will be posted to the Track 3 website in the next 7 days or so. So now the meeting rules for tonight are virtual AGM. If you have questions, most of you have, I shouldn't say most, many of you have already submitted questions, which is great. Paul has done a really excellent job of going through all of them and has kind of grouped them together, and we'll be answering those questions later on. But if you do have an additional question, you will have an opportunity to do that later on in the meeting. Prior to each vote, I should say that we will be using polling tonight to do our votes. We will be asking for a first. In other words, the first will be the person who's actually making the motion, so slightly different than in normal circumstances. And then a seconder, we will ask for that as well. And what we will want is in participants, when you click on participants, you'll see the raise your hand. So I will ask for a first. In other words, somebody making the motion, the first person to raise their hand, we will record that person as the first. Then we'll ask for the second. The next person to raise their hand will be the second. That's how that's going to go. And then we will do our vote. Dave will throw the first sort of test poll up so you can see what that's going to look like. And you've got 10 seconds, 15 seconds to do that. There are no wrong answers. The answers will not be counted. This is just a test. Everybody click on something, click submit. We'll close it in five more seconds. That's, I think, sufficient time, Dave. Dave will now post the results to your screen. And look at that. Ha ha! Who did not vote for I Love Alpine Winter Sports? And some people were not in favor. That's okay. We can close that up. That's basically how it's going to work. Proxy votes, as of right now, we have 19 proxies. 16 of them have been assigned to the board. Kathy Saunders will be acting as the scrutineer on all of our votes for all of our motions tonight. I'm going to get to point B in a second. A reminder that you could only vote once per connection. So once if you're online, on a computer, you could be multiply on. So you could be on a phone, a tablet, but one vote per connection. That's important to know. In the case of a close vote, if it's too close to call, including our proxies, the 16 that we have assigned to the board, we will move to a raising your hand in chat, not in participants. And we might just say, we'll say like maybe vote yes, no, abstain. We'll type that into chat. The reason we use the chat function is because that can be recorded and we can download those results later. All votes, very important though, will be verified at the end of the AGM. As you've just seen, you see the results instantaneously, but what you don't see is who voted. We will be downloading that report at the end of the meeting, and Kathy will be just cross-referencing to make sure that the vote is clean. So even though we will be passing a motion, it's not 100% verified until the end. But rest assured that Kathy is doing an excellent job of scrutinizing tonight. And one last thing is that I do not vote. The only time that I would be able to vote would be to break a tie. I'm going back to point B now. Knowing all of that regarding proxies, if anyone is here, is in the meeting who has submitted a proxy and would like to rescind that, they should do that at this time. Click on participants and raise your hand. So we do have a couple there. It looks like 2 people have raised their hand, 3 people. So Kathy is recording that right now. Just a few more seconds. So this way, if you're rescinding your proxy, it means you will be voting tonight. If you are observing and you've already given your proxy, please don't vote. So Kathy has recorded those 4 names now. That's I see 4. I see 4. Okay, that's beautiful. Moving right along, so 4 proxies have been removed. So now you have, but we'll figure out how many later on. All right, so here we go. At 7:08 p.m. on Thursday, October the 22nd, I will now declare the 2020 annual general meeting for the Ontario Track 3 Ski Association for the Disabled in session. For the purposes of this meeting, Chris Rain, who is the secretary of the board of directors, has been appointed the secretary. He will be recording the minutes of this meeting, and he will be making those minutes available on the Track 3 website within 7 days. And I now call upon Chris for the next proceeding on slide number 6.
Thanks, Dave. The notice of meeting was duly emailed to all members in accordance with the bylaws on or before October 1st, 2020. Section 4 of the bylaws states that a voting member must be legal age of a majority. The person has made an application for membership. The person is an employee, director, officer, or life member of the association. By board decision or specification, volunteers, 1 member of a student's family, or a committee member can be members without application. The above specification is confirmed so that we can ascertain who will have standing to vote at the AGM. For the purposes of this virtual meeting, we'll take attendance based on your registered name on Zoom, as per the instructions emailed on October 20th, 2020.
Thank you, Chris. So the proof of notice calling the meeting has now been duly filed, and a copy of the notice will be kept by the secretary with the records of this meeting. I now declare the meeting regularly called and properly constituted for the transaction of business. So now we have a motion, our first motion of the evening. We get to try out our polling for real now. This is great. The motion is to acknowledge the special nature of this annual general meeting due to the current circumstances regarding COVID-19, and that we approve the holding of the 2020 AGM online via Zoom. I am at this moment in time, Dave, can you please clear the first four hands?
Yeah.
And Jack Sim raised his hand first, so please, Jack Sim is the first on this vote. And Brenda Brooks was second. And please, I will say this, we can clear the hands, but after you've raised your hand, if you could clear your hand, that would be fantastic as well. You do that by just clicking on it.
I'd appreciate that because I have to do
That'd
them
be
one
great.
by one. Thank you.
Thank you. So Mr. Sim and Brenda Brooks, that's our first and our second on this motion. And we are now going to vote via polling. They will put that up now. Okay, we have 10 more seconds to vote on this, please. And the voting is closed. All right, there are the results. So the motion carries and will be recorded as such. That was the motion to accept the AGM via Zoom. I should, once again, I want to give the reminder that if you've not already, or if you have rather already issued a proxy vote and you didn't rescind it, please do not vote. Okay, we have our next motion now, which is the motion to approve the minutes of the 2019 AGM. Back one slide, Dave. This motion is that the minutes of the Ontario Track 3 Ski Association for the Disabled, Ontario Track 3 Annual General Meeting, the AGM, heretofore known as, for the period ending April the 30th, 2019, which was held on October the 5th, 2019 in Etobicoke, be accepted as presented. So in participants now, we're looking for a first, and that will be Brad Sutton. Our seconder will be J.F. Pilon. And JF, if you could clear that, that would be great. And now we are ready for voting. Once again, the motion that the minutes of the Ontario Track 3 Ski Association for the Disabled for last year be accepted as presented. You have 10 seconds to vote on this. And there we have the voting is closed. And we have 79% in favor. And you can see the numbers, Dave, so
21, yeah, 21%. Oh. So we have 38 in favor and 10 abstain.
right, perfect. So the motion carries and will be recorded as such. All right, I now call upon Fayez, our illustrious Fayez Teya, our illustrious treasurer, to deliver his report to the board.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me, Dave? Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It looks like we have a pretty good turnout, so that's always great. As part of the Treasurer's Report, I'm going to cover two main areas. The first is our April 30th, 2020 financial statements that were audited by RLB Chartered Professional Accountants. Some of you may remember that we elected these auditors last year, and this is our first year using them. Overall, in my opinion, we were very satisfied with their work, and they were very thorough and efficient, which was really great. Everyone would have received the financial statements as part of the initial AGM email. The two main areas, anyone who did pay attention to the financials, the two main areas where people may have noticed a difference from last year versus this year is on the balance sheet. You'll notice that our cash balance at the end of this fiscal year was lower by a bit from last year, $212,000 or $213,000 at the end of this year versus $375,000 at the end of the prior year. You would have also noticed that our accounts receivable at the end of this past year, at the end of 2020, was $152,000 versus $14,000 at the end of our 2019 fiscal. Both line items basically offset each other. Due to the circumstances under COVID, we have a significant payment that comes to us every April. Unfortunately, due to the circumstances of COVID, there was a delay in payments being issued, strictly because of the circumstances. So that's why our bank balance at the end of the fiscal year was a little bit lower, but our accounts receivable was significantly higher. I'm pleased to say that as of today, almost all of that accounts receivable has been received, so there's no concerns from that aspect. I thought I'd address that because those are two pretty big variances on the balance sheet, and some of you may have already had that question in your heads. Otherwise, on the balance sheet, there's no other major areas of concern. Looking at the income statement for the year, you'll notice that our overall revenue was a little bit better than prior year at $592,000 versus $567,000, and it was better than we had anticipated within our own budget. And our expenditures were a little bit higher compared to the prior year. However, it was in line with the board's budget and plans for the fiscal year. At the end of the year, we had a net loss of just under $21,000 versus just under $25,000 from the year prior. But like I said, this was all as part of the board's budget and plans for the year. Otherwise, in regards to the financial statements for April 30th, 2020 that were prepared by RLB Chartered Professional Accountants, there's no major discrepancies or concerns at this point. They are audited statements, and as a board, we have reviewed and are satisfied with the results. So at this time, I would like to move that the audited financial statements for Ontario Track 3 for the period ending April 30th, 2020, which have been prepared by the appointed auditor, RLB Chartered Professional Accountant, be accepted as presented.
Okay, so we have a call for a first on this. That's Sharon Varty, first person. Please clear your names too, please, your hands. And Ted Larkin is our seconder on this motion. We can proceed to the vote to accept the auditor's report. And you have 10 seconds.
And we're at 38, 41. Motion's carrying.
All right. And voting is closed, everybody. Let's see the results, Dave. And that is in favor. So the motion carries to accept the auditor's report and will be recorded as such. That's fantastic.
Thank you, everyone. The other area that I thought I'd give a quick update on in regards, because there's probably a lot of questions regards to how Track 3 is doing in light of COVID. I just want to give a quick update to let you know that our cash balance is still very healthy, with over $300,000 in the bank. Unfortunately, our donations are down, as is with most charities nowadays, down by about 51%. But as a board, we've been very proactive in managing our expenses, where our expenses are down about 55% from prior year. We've been very strategic in managing those expenses and having a budget that is very conservative. And as well as a board, we've been taking advantage of all government programs that our organization is allowed to take advantage of to help with keeping our bank balance healthy and keeping us afloat. That's just the update in case anyone is wondering about where we stand right now. My final motion that I'd like to make is I move that RLB Chartered Professional Accountants be appointed auditors for Ontario Track 3 for the 2021 fiscal year ending April 30th, 2021.
Perfect. So the call for firsts and seconds here. So Audrey Dixon has raised her hand. She's the first on this motion. Brad Sutton is the seconder. A reminder to please clear your hands once you've raised them. That's excellent. And now we are moving on to the vote. And you have 15 seconds to vote, please. And polling has closed. Dave, if you could display the results. And we have 94%. So the motion carries and will be recorded as such. Thank you, everybody. I would now like to introduce our illustrious president, Mr. Paul Rogers.
Thanks a lot, Dave, and good evening, everyone. I want to join Fayez in acknowledging just what a strong turnout we have. To me, it's a little bit like when we do many of you would have recalled that we did a survey on COVID in the summer, and our response rate was really, really high across our membership. So having high engagement from our base is just fantastic and appreciated. People might be a little bit tired of Zoom the way the world's going, but actually I think for AGMs, I did this CSI AGM a month or so ago on Zoom, and it was actually really slick. So hopefully we're pulling this off similarly well. I do think it may be the way we do it in the future, and we'll save our time together when we're training and teaching and even celebrating. And I know we're all looking forward to that. So anyway, thanks again for being here. At the time I have tonight, I did want to really, I'm going to acknowledge quite a few people that just, we're obviously a volunteer-powered, people-driven organization, and so that'll be kind of a theme you'll hear from me. You'll probably think, wow, he called out a lot of people, but anyway, that's what I'm here to do. I want to talk a little bit about the past year, and on behalf of the board, chat a little bit about how we're thinking about it. Also want to talk about what lies ahead. And as Dave said, we had some really thoughtful comments that came in advance. Most of them were about the uncertainty around COVID. So I'll do my best on behalf of both the board and the committee we have working on what we call Project January to talk about what's happening with our planning for 2021. And then, I think we have a little bit of question and discussion, which I'll try and facilitate through. So in terms of acknowledgements, one thing I just wanted to I don't know if many people have spent any time on our website, but we do do a good job there of telling the story of our history. I have you know, I've only been, I say only, but I guess almost 20 years with the organization. I had a chance to meet Doug Carey quite a few times and ski with him. Doug's our founder, and the chance recently to be in touch with both his wife and his daughter. Many of you know Doug even better than I do, and I just actually felt just lucky to be around him and hear those founding stories. But you know, we wouldn't be here doing what we're doing, but for the efforts of those guys that started back, and think about it, we're coming up on 50 years. So I wanted to acknowledge Doug and everything he's done to get us going. And then another person I just wanted to shout out was Hank Engels. I worked pretty closely with Hank. And I guess just, you know, part of what my experience has been in the last year is, some of you know, I've spent most of my time in Collingwood and at Craigleith, and so I've tried to get around, and you know, I didn't get to all the programs, and if I didn't, I'll surely be there this coming year. But I don't know if Chris is on from Ottawa, but Chris, I mean it. Um, the um, the when you're out at these programs and you're learning the history and how we got there, I was like, I think Glen Eden just a week or two ago, and you know, I thought about Hank a lot, just in terms of some of he wasn't the founder, but he was definitely a builder. And I also wanted to, when I talk about founders and builders, just wanted to acknowledge a couple of predecessors that I had as president, people I know pretty well, Steve Jones and Walt Scoble. They both served as president of Track 3, and this just was new to me, something I wasn't really expecting. So you know, in addition to relying on the current board, I've relied quite heavily on Steve and Walt for some advice from time to time. So I want to thank them. You know, next I do want to Kathy, I think, does a great job of acknowledging always all of our volunteers. All of, you know, we have some parents definitely with us tonight, but we're a little volunteer heavy in our mix. So certainly want to acknowledge all of you. You have choices. We know you have choices in terms of how you're spending your time. And so we you know, we definitely appreciate that you're supporting our families and coming out. And hopefully you find the community enriching and the work we do enriching. And if you have any ideas for making it better, we're obviously always wide open to hearing from you. So thank you for what you do. It's been an interesting year of you know, we've lost some great people. So I did want to you know, one of the things I hope we do well, Kathy does pretty well in the office, is when we get financial contributions, we send a letter and thank people. I mean, Fayez just talked about donations being down, so we're, you know, we're always we think it's important to offer gratitude. So we've been sending out a lot of thank you letters for just individual donations for memoriams, and so we recently lost Wayne Neal, who was a volunteer with us, along with his wife. Wayne is survived by his wife Diane. He worked with us for many years at Mount St. Louis Moonstone. We also lost, pardon me, I'm just referencing a note here, because I didn't know Betty Jane Jelly, who worked with us as a great at the great program we operate in Caledon. And then some of you may have heard or read my note back in the spring, acknowledging a few losses that we've had. Penny Preston, somebody that made a really fantastic impression on me in the early days. She was running with her husband Bob the Sunday program at Craigleith, and we lost Penny, unfortunately. Lloyd Sweeney, who was just a builder for this organization. Beloved Lloyd, who served at us. I think he worked at 3 different programs, and he was a heart and soul guy. And you know, he did a lot for us in terms of attracting volunteers, building great relationships with our families, obviously caring deeply. And he was a great fundraiser, and Lloyd's stories are really fun to tell from that. And somebody that I was pretty close to that we lost this past spring is Mark Lewis. And that was a tough one. Mark's exactly my age. He's about a month away from me, and just a dear giver and a great friend to the organization. So we're part of our role as a community has been to give a collective hug to his wife Brenda and do everything we can to support her. But anyway, we are a community. We're a volunteer driven group, and these have been some tough losses. So I did want to acknowledge those folks in my comments. Taking a minute, I have some official business about the board, but I did want to speak briefly about the board. I'm not sure. Well, I didn't have enough appreciation for when I was being a teacher and a course conductor and a technical committee member and so on for all the work the board was doing. The bylaws call on us to meet 4 times a year, and we meet monthly for 2 hours. And we do a lot more than that. There's always a ton of other activity going on, whether it's about fundraising or partnerships, or interfacing into different committees that we've started and are running. It's a hardworking board, and I think it's been more so maybe even in the last. Sorry, I shouldn't prejudge. I know I think we've always had good boards, but certainly without an executive director, we lost Naomi last fall. So we've been a little thin on staffing. So people have really been pitching in. So I won't spend a lot of time calling up everybody, but I do want to thank Dave Umbach, who's with me here in the room tonight, who's been leading our liaison into the multi-season work. So we've carried on the work to understand the opportunities to serve athletes multiple seasons. So he's working really closely with former board member and longtime valued volunteer Ben Diplock on that initiative. Dave is leading today's meeting with his radio voice. Dave I worked really closely with Dave on many things. He basically was the heart and soul of our fundraising this winter in the events that we had. Those are really important for us. We're not going to have them this year, and so that's going to hurt us. Dave has been a longtime friend of Track 3, and I feel really fortunate that we got to have him on the board for a year. And we're saying goodbye to him tonight, but I know he'll never be too far away. George Anderson, George is a terrific guy, and he's been doing great work for us on the system side. We've got a lot of opportunity for us on digital and modernizing our systems, and just getting us pulling us ahead into this latest technology, and there's a lot more we can do. And George has got great ideas for that, and he's formed a technical committee that some of you are volunteering time on to help us through on that journey. Judy Hawk has been busy, very busy with us on helping on many areas, but certainly things that are people related, HR, everything that is her expertise. Judy's been just a terrific teammate, and a pleasure to work with. Fayez, who spoke earlier, we're fortunate to have Fayez carry on from the previous board to our board, and obviously the role covering off our financials is a vital one, and we are delighted to have Fayez, renewing his board. We'll get to that shortly in our official business, but really delighted that in addition to staying on as a volunteer and a course conductor, he's going to be helping us with our numbers. Chris Rain, who spoke earlier, is our secretary, so Chris has to work hard on keeping us honest on all things legal, and minutes aren't fun, but he gets them done and does a great job with it. And we have some really important things from a partnership standpoint that are bringing in some legal angles. So it's great to have Chris there. And we also have Alexander Wilkes, who's brings a bit of youth diversity to our board. And I said earlier, handsome, good looks. He's on my screen right now. So Alexander's helping us. We have some things we need to look at, and whether it's on insurance or partnerships. Alexander's willing and to roll up his sleeves, which we appreciate. Glenn Hayworth. Glenn is been a really versatile, valuable board member, and I'm hoping that he will be renewed this evening as part of our motions that are coming up. Glenn's really helped across a number of areas. He's got a great orientation around risk management, and if you think about how safety driven we are and how we're flexing our muscles on safety now, that's a great skill set to have. And he's also helped on Hill relationships. Glenn's a member at Craigleith, and that's Craigleith is certainly not the center of the universe, but it's an important place for us. We run 2 big programs there, and in a good year we do a lot of training, and it's important. So Glenn's had some great connections in there, got us in to make a presentation to their board last year, and so on. So just really, really valuable. And you know, somebody who's not with us tonight is Paul Dowsett. Paul is basically termed out on the board. Paul preceded me in my role as president, and he served 2 terms on the board. Long time giver to Track 3. I think Paul's got over 30 years of giving, and he's been a real champion, including for our diversification into snowboarding. And I know he's attracted and retained a whole lot of great volunteers, and has a great commitment to our families, and you know, has a great team running the program on Sundays over at Craig Leith. So we really I do want to thank all of those people who have given a lot of time and energy to the work we're doing. And you know, that the new board, I know we'll have many challenges and lots of work to do in the year ahead. So my thanks to them. I do want to as well just acknowledge our sponsors. We don't really have them on the call tonight, but you know, Fayez covered off. You know, we have I think a decent amount of revenue we need to figure out and collect. So we do some great things here. And I shouted out Steve and Scott Teichowitz in the one of my summer communications. We did a presentation here at the office back I think it was in July, with masks on, to do a check presentation we had reached the $500,000 mark over, I think, about 6 years in our relationship with Funding Innovations, which is principally the easel campaign in Metro stores. So that's just been a home run for us, and you know, we work really hard at it in terms of optimization. It'll take a bit of a blow this year with we shut down in Metro for a little while, just based on the initial shutdown, but we've come back pretty strong. I met with them I think earlier this week, and we're doing okay now. It's we're in fortunate places. We're people need groceries, and so it's our placements there are good. So we're going to be a little bit behind, but Scott organized a campaign just before COVID hit, and we've added about 25 stores, which takes us up by about 25%. And so maybe we'll make up for some lost time. And so that's important. But for one of the challenges going forward, will be fundraising. Like we'll without being able to do events, we'll have to be even more creative and smart about how we're doing things. So finally, on the acknowledgement side, I have here the office. You know what that is, right? We're down, and then there was one, and so I said in a note earlier again that I had a great appreciation for Kathy. I've known her for a very long time, but spending a lot of time here with Kathy, and working really closely with her, I must say my admiration and appreciation for her has only grown. She works so hard for us, and she knows everything, right? So shame on me if I don't know something and I don't ask her first, because her collective wisdom and knowledge is a powerful force, and I'm just very, very grateful to have her with us, and she's a keeper. So just a little bit on 2020. I think people appreciate that a year ago we were a pretty new board, and I know myself, I lacked a lot of experience, but it was clear for me that the first thing we had to focus on was taking care of our families, getting down to business, and just running our programs. And so that was job one, to make sure that we could maintain our tradition and keep going. So that was put away the drama and get back to business, and we did that. And so that back to thanking all of you that we pulled it off. I think we had a terrific season. A lot of the focus in the last year has been on partnerships. I've quite a lot of industry collaboration, and this has been I think really important, particularly as COVID's hit. It's a very and maybe this is just me learning more about the industry and how tight it is and how much they support each other. But there's great, the Canada Ski Council, the Ontario Snow Resorts Association, they're great resources. They run, they pull everyone together, terrific information sharing. So we've been leveraging as much of that industry collaboration as we can. It's as we're trying to figure things out, it's great to know what Ski Patrol is doing and what CSIA is doing and the CASI, the snowboard guys are doing, and so on. So we put some priority on that, and it's been really, really helpful. We have for a long time had a relationship with CADS, so National Organization for Disabled Skiing. We've formed a project around this called Project Peaks. We're looking at ways that we can strengthen that partnership, and we really are impressed with a lot of the things that they're doing, whether it's on training or technical. We're very impressed with their leadership. Frankly, they've got good people. Some of you who were out for the Alpine Day or the ski day we ran at the end of January might have met Chris or John, John Ross, Chris Rabb. They're just terrific people. So we're optimistic that we can find ways to work together. I'm sure this is a topic that brings up a little bit of emotion. I found that people are will we maintain our identity and our traditions and uniqueness, and I think all of that's really important. I think we can, and so the work we're doing now is we've kind of split off to look at so we've tasked some of our technical committee to work with their technical committee to look at what we could do together and do better. How can we help them? How can they help us? An example is we do level 1 exceptionally well to get people trained and out on the hill, and our RTC have done a great job with that. And theirs is a little more cumbersome, but they're probably maybe a little bit further along on, say, things like autism, where they're working on level 2. And so should we do that, or can we partner with them? So that's what that team's looking at. That we're looking at advantages possibly in areas like insurance. We're looking at things like COVID planning, and why should we do it separately or together? And so that's something that we're really I excited about to as an opportunity to work smarter. The board understands this would be something that we would want to consult membership on, and we would want to have membership support. So that's something that we'll just continue to work on. I would say that when we started, we brought them in. I think it was COVID had just hit. I think we did a workshop on April 1st or something like that, where they came in by a Zoom or by a Hangout, I guess, and we had a good impression. We thought we might be further along by now, but COVID just kind of took over a bit. So we don't have anything fundamentally that we're putting in front of you today, but I would imagine when we're together next year, we will. So that's what we're trying to do. And I'll talk about COVID next, but I did want to say here, this has been a big part of our year, right? So I think we were very fortunate on timing. The only programming impact that COVID had is we had to take the decision to cancel our upgrade training, which was scheduled for March 14th and 15th. So that was a shame to miss. It was one of those decisions where it seemed like it was a hard decision to make on a Tuesday, but by the time the weekend got around, it was the most obvious thing in the world, and we all know that COVID story. So we talk about how it's shaping up, but we formed a team to work on this, and it's got representation from the office, from program directors who are so critical to what we do, from the technical committee, and I thought it was important enough. I've been spending quite a bit of time on it too, and so we'll talk about that next. And I mentioned earlier that Dave's been working with Ben on multi-season. We talked, that was a discussion topic at last year's AGM. This board's very open-minded about, the last board was very bullish and pro on this, and this board's, is very supportive of it, but wants to evaluate, understand the opportunity and how does it serve our communities. And anyway, I really appreciate the work that Ben and his sub-team are doing, and we'll hear more in the future about that. So finally, in terms of the 2020, we spent some time on just kind of the future of the board, and on staffing leadership. So we had, just for full disclosure, we were planning to hire an executive director. We had Judy done all the hard work on working us all through the job description, and we're literally just about to post when COVID hit. So we pulled that back and never posted it, and so back to just kind of working a little bit harder. And so that's something that we'll look at over time. And we for now anyway, with some of the uncertainty on the funding side, that generally what we've been willing to do is work a little harder. And I mentioned how strong Kathy is earlier. So we'll probably, one area we'll try to get a little bit of help is on fundraising. I've been writing some grants myself, and I'd love some help. So just a couple of areas where we think we could use it. But I think for now anyway, people should know there's no immediate plans for an ED. Okay, so that's 2020. So looking ahead, really the thing I thought based on the input we got from the registration was all about our handling on COVID. So really just a couple of things. This is pretty high level, but I'll do my best to satisfy the questions that came in. Number one, just wanted to give you a sense of what's been done. We first did. I chatted about sort of the call we made on training. We had to set a budget for this year, so that was a hard one. It's probably the hardest meeting we had, actually, because it's not easy to cut your revenue forecast significantly. I was in denial, but I have good people to bring me around and keep me honest. But anyway, we've been really thoughtful about the financial impacts. And Fayez covered this really well in his remarks, so I won't go on. But we have to think about it from a financial standpoint. And I'm glad that Fayez was so reassuring around our financial soundness, and you should all take good assurance from that. They mentioned earlier the survey of membership. The big takeaway for me on the survey was just, reading the responses from parents in particular in terms of how meaningful the programs were. I had a good sense for this, obviously, but the people were just, telling us to do everything we possibly could to operate. And so it was a rallying cry, I guess. Close to 80% of both families and volunteers said, let's do it. And the other thing that stood out from the survey was just the quality of the ideas. Everything from alternating weeks, which it looks like we'll have to do in some places, and shorter days, and obviously PPE, and cohorts, and so a lot of really good input and material for that committee I talked about to work with. So that's we formed the team, and the team has built the Return to Snow protocols, which is really inclusive of programming and related safety measures. And we've had the industry and Hill discussions that have been ongoing. Understanding there's a little complexity to this because all of the public health interpretations are different. So being able to talk to the individual Hills in terms of what they're hearing and what they're expecting, we're going to have to be in tight alignment with the individual Hills. I should say that just for public health, it's possible that some of our programs may not operate. We may not find a way. Example is that in Grey County, they've absolutely said that it's fine to have close contact. So basically, and including with instructors riding chairs with students. So far, that's not the case in Toronto, and so it'll be hard for us to operate at Earl Bales, which would be just a huge shame. And I don't want anyone to take away that Paul said we can't operate at Earl Bales, but my point is just there's trouble spots, right? And it's probably not a surprise for everyone watching the news. But we're working our way through that, and we'll continue to have those discussions, and we're committed to keeping you informed in terms of how it evolves. We went ahead with registration, and so Kathy's been managing this for the past month, and we got 76 kids registered. This was down a bit from the survey responses, so it's closer to 2/3 than the 78% we got on the survey indicated. So people, and that that could just be that COVID got a bit worse. could be that you get a different response and time goes on. And but anyway, that's where we're at. So really, the volunteer registration is the critical next step for us. And I put commencing tomorrow. We've had a busy week, but either tomorrow or next week we'll get the volunteer package out. And if I could encourage all of the volunteers that are on the phone tonight, what we've said to families, by the way, is that if you can't come this year or you don't want to come, you're not going to lose your spot. So even if you age out, come next year. We'll be here for you. So no one's going to lose a spot because of COVID. So anyway, if you're a volunteer and you're coming, please don't sit on it. Please register. That'll make it a lot easier for us to know where we have gaps, and that's one of the hardest things that we do. Really, that Kathy does. I would say that we were going to spend quite a bit more time on that supply-demand optimization. We didn't, with spending, we've been spending our time on other stuff. But at any rate, if you're a volunteer and you get Kathy's note, jump on it. Get on and register. It'll be hugely helpful to us. So what's coming up? I say the overall, I think about this is, if you think about what we do, it's about it's about safety first always, and it's about being adaptive. So I think we've got a great sort of DNA to deal with COVID. So I think just to give you a sense for what's coming, we'll have modified programming. Example is shorter duration programs. So example, again, guys, these decisions aren't final, but it's likely that at, say, Craigleith, it'll be alternating weeks, and we're just mindful of the real limitation here is indoor space. So we have to again look at the number of kids per day, and we just got registration closed, so we're not at end of job. But as we go through it, that could be something we do. So we do cohorts, and we do 4-week, 4-week cohorts, right? That's a possibility. There will be other programs where it's a weeknight and it's no problem. You got 4 kids coming to Glen Eden on a Tuesday and we're good, and no problem. So they can, we'll do every week there as an example. So none of this is definite yet, but those are the kind of things we're working through. We've had a call with program directors, and we'll be connecting individually as a next step. So the idea is that we'll go basically program by program and look at it. And great credit to the program directors, highly engaged, obviously, and some of them are well along in their own planning. And so I think it'll be hill by hill, health district by health district, but the intention is to find a way if we can. So it's tenure-based membership. So we're really, the decision at this time is returning volunteers and students. So not doing level 1 training in the first weekend of January is kind of our thinking. This could change. We could decide that we need we've got 10 volunteers that we really need at a particular place, and we're going to move heaven and earth to figure something out with. So we'd work with the technical committee and course conductors to see if we could line something up. But that's generally the idea, is that it won't be a big year for level 1, and we'll see what we can do for modules and upgrades as we go along here. So we will do training, however. It'll be important with the current thinking is that with the week that is basically what is the second week of our programs where we typically do research and hill orientation. We will do that, and it'll be COVID focused. So we'll be focused on training our protocols, and what our new reality is, and so that's what we're thinking. And I think just the idea here is keep momentum and be great guests at our hills. And I think for folks, we're all going to have to just do our best. And I think we should expect there will be challenges, and we'll have to adapt as we go. So we'll have a good plan. The protocols will be good. The checklists will be good. The requirements will be clear. we'll do everything we can to set up for success. But I think, everyone's managing in some, I'm sure, many parents on the program are thinking about, different things you guys have already been experiencing with your kids in programs and even with school. And so I think adaptability is going to be, which we have as a great strength, is going to be really, really critical. So that's I probably didn't answer every question, and I probably don't have the answer to every question, but that's where we are so far. We'll, as we continue to work through this, as I say, we're going to be going hill by hill next. We'll continue to communicate what it's going to look like, and stay tuned. Stay tuned, and my thanks to that committee of program directors, and and we've actually just to name them, we've got Daniel, we've got Brenda Brooks, we've had Megan Goodhand involved. We've got Kathy from the office. We've got Monica from the training committee. We brought in Bruce Bond, who's got some really great knowledge and awareness around PPE. And we brought in John Coy, also the technical committee. But we brought John in because he works in the healthcare sector. So the team's done, I think, a really good job. And sorry, we also have Kelsey Bennett, whose name will come up in a little bit. And Kelsey's done a great job working with Brenda on the protocol. So my thanks to that team who've done a ton of work. Okay, so that's what to expect. So just to set up for the next part of the meeting, board of directors, we've got George with 1 year remaining. I mentioned Paul earlier is leaving. Judy's got 2 years remaining. Glenn is standing for re-election. Chris has 2 years. I am standing for re-election. Dave's got 2 years remaining. Dave Umbach I got 2 years remaining. Dave Sprague is leaving us. Fayez is standing for re-election, and Alexander's got 1 year. So the continuing, there's 5 directors where there's no voting required based on their remaining tenure. So I worked closely with Judy, back to strong orientation on the people side, and with Chris Rain on the finding the recruiting new directors and retaining our existing directors. So that's who's done the work to form the recommendations for this evening from the board on directors. So standing for election, Glenn's coming up. We've got some balancing here. Basically, in our bylaws, we're being consistent with our bylaws and maintaining consistency in our cohorts, so we don't have everyone leaving at once. So Glenn is for now anyway looking to extend for a year. I'm looking to extend for 2 years, and then we have Fayez coming for re-election for a full 3-year term, and then 2 new directors. Richard Boyles. Richard has been very, very involved in skiing for over 20 years. He's been on the board at Devil's Glen, and very involved in teaching programs in Alpine. Good exposure to adaptive and fundraising. Just a terrific guy. I think he'll be a great addition to our team. Kelsey Bennett has a strong background in amateur sport, including in freestyle skiing. Great connectivity into the industry, and Kelsey has on our COVID work. She's proved that she's willing to work and roll up her sleeves. So we're recommending Kelsey as well to join our board for a 3-year term.
Excellent, Paul. Thank you. That was an awesome and very deep report. Fantastic. Thank you for that. We're now moving on to the standing for re-election phase. We have, as Paul already mentioned, we have 5 directors or seats at the board table open. We'll be voting on those 5 directors' positions this evening. The first person standing, or actually the first director's position number 1, the first person standing for re-election is Glenn Hayworth. You are voting yes, no, or abstain. And a reminder that if you have not, or if you have already issued a proxy vote and you did not rescind it earlier tonight, please do not vote right now. So it's simple, yes, no, or abstain, and Dave will put that vote up now. We'll have 15 seconds to vote, starting now. The motion to re-elect member of the Board of Directors, position number 1, to a 1-year term, Glenn Hayworth. And the voting is closed. Dave, the results, please. Excellent. The vote carries and will be recorded as such. Thank you. Moving on to director's position number 2. This is for a 2-year term. The nominee is Paul Rogers. Once again, you're voting yes, no, or abstain. And we'll open the voting now. And you have 15 seconds. And time is up. Dave will show us the result of that. And the vote carries, will be recorded as such. We are now moving on to director's position number 3. This is for a 3-year term. The nominee is Fayez Teja. Yes, no, or abstain. Once again, 15 seconds starting now to vote. Okay, voting is closed. And vote carries, will be recorded. We're now moving on. This is the first election to the board this evening. We have 2. This is director's position number 4. This is an election. The nominee is Richard Boyles. His bio was included in your registration package that was sent out a few weeks ago. We will proceed to the vote now. Once again, and voting is closed. And that number's good, Dave?
Yep.
Vote carries, will be recorded as such. Lastly, we are our last director's position, number 5. This is an election to a 3-year term. The nominee is Kelsey Bennett. Her bio is also in the registration package. You have 15 seconds to vote yes, no, or abstain. And the voting is closed. Dave will post, and the vote carries. It will be recorded. So all those are new directors to the board of Track 3, starting at the next meeting. Okay, Paul, you already answered all the questions, I think, pretty much that were submitted to us in the registration package. So we will proceed now. If anybody has additional questions, and I would emphasize additional, we don't want to ask this a question that's already been answered, obviously. Please, you click on the chat button at the bottom. This is the time to actually use chat tonight. So this is an opportunity for you to type a message in there. And while we're waiting for that, we will monitor the chat box right now. I will read the questions if there are any questions that are coming in. While we're waiting for that, I should tell you that shortly you will have an opportunity as well to raise any new business. We will be using the participants button for that. You'll be asked to raise your hand, and then you'll be called upon to unmute your mic Whoa, yeah, you actually get to speak. Well, I know. And you'll get a chance to address the board. So you might want to be thinking about that. That'll be the process for raising new business. We do have a couple of questions here. The first from Paolo. Are we looking for more volunteers? I'll leave that for you.
Yeah, I think, look, I think we're definitely maintaining a list of volunteers. So Kathy, we're never going to turn volunteers away. The question will be, can we use them this year? And so we're keeping a list. Mentioned earlier, we're not planning on level 1 training. So it'll be, it's not going to be a typical new volunteer year the way we're thinking about it right now, but we're keen to get the names. I think it's going to be a huge year for outdoor sports and a huge year for skiing. So if there's we're still working on this in terms of what we could reasonably do, including with the technical committee, but we're keen to get the names. Whether we can put them to work this year is the bigger question. George has a question about busing. Still looking at this, George. I think about you a lot when I think about busing. We don't know yet. It's going to depend on the physical distancing and sort of the critical mass, and does the bus make sense? We know that buses for the the 3 programs that have them, or I guess 4, they're important. So we're super mindful of that. We've thought about it quite a bit. Our logic would be that we would do distancing on the buses, and we think we'd be able to manage that. We know that general busing requirements don't require that with face coverings. So anyway, we're spending time on it, George. We don't have a final answer yet, but appreciate the question, and we'll keep in touch with you. So that Jason, thanks for the question. The COVID plans for each hill expected to be finalized. It's a really good question. I think it'll take us a couple of weeks to work through with the program directors. Probably we're starting next week. So realistically, I would think that we'll probably be a good part of November, but we'll keep you informed. And again, those will be plans that are probably pretty dynamic. Just to give you a sense for what to expect, part of it will be complying with the local hill requirements. So if you're some hills, we're gonna have to fall in line with what their pre-checks are. We'll have to use their apps. You might have to get an RFID card, that kind of stuff to track your ins and outs. And so there's a lot of nuances per program that we have to work through. And so we're just really getting to that stage of engaging into that level of detail. Kathy and I are going to put a lot of time in it with the respective program directors, but it'll take us a little while longer. So stay tuned. It's a good question. The question about Hazel, thanks for the question about parents. We surveyed this in terms of what parents would be willing to do. And generally it was highly supported that parents will be willing to do it. It comes to help. It's not across the board though. So it's kind of how do you manage it? And if it's a little bit tied to George's program, if parents are, we can't offer them indoor space to stay warm, and it's a say a 4-hour program. There's some trade-offs here. So I think when we get to, we can probably manage this hill by hill as well. I do know that in the broader industry, it's a big discussion point, and some are trying it, doing trials on it in able-bodied skiing, alpine programs. Anyway, so don't have a final answer. And I think what we'll probably do is a bit situational. Like I think if there's a way that we don't want to leave a kid behind, and the parent just doesn't have the ability to help, and we've got a way to do it, then we'll find a way. I think that's kind of how we're oriented on it. That's a great question, Patricia. Will volunteers be expected to clean? That's high quality. you know, it's a real good one, right? Like, I'll think about pick an example like Beaver Valley. That, you know, Bruce tells me it's always hard to get an indoor staff that's reliable there. It'd be a great year to have a highly motivated, terrific indoor staff member at Beaver. Can we get it? I don't know. We're going to try, but if we can't, then there will be some demands on the volunteers, and we'll, you know, because we have to, you know, we obviously have a great premium on that. So I hope we can get some of our volunteers that are dedicated to cleaning and helping that way, but we'll have to see how we do. Barb, that's an easy question. I said earlier, I think this is the way to do AGMs, and so that's really good. Daniel, you're saying if Toronto returns to level 1, but other areas of the province are not impacted, will the program run for volunteers and athletes living outside Toronto? Yes. Yeah, it's going to be, Daniel, we're going to be just, you know, the nature of public health is we're going to have to, it's going to look different in different areas for sure. So yeah, we'll run programs. There'll be a lot of customization. It's possible that some programs won't be able to run. That'll be really unfortunate if that's the case. But you know, we can only do our best. That's it.
Okay, that looks like it for questions at this time. Excellent questions, all. That's fantastic.
Really good.
I would just add, interesting to Barb's. It's gratifying to see how many people have participated in the AGM tonight, and I think largely that's because it's on Zoom. I mean, it's so easy for us all to get together this way, which is fantastic. We will move on now to new business. If there is something you wish to raise with the board that we haven't, in addition to what has been discussed already, now is that time. In the participants, I'll repeat, in the participants, just click on raise your hand. Armando has already done that. And we will call you in order. And when I call your name, just unmute your microphone and ask away. So Armando, you're up first.
I may have to do that.
Armando Peluso. Oh yeah, Dave, you'll have to unmute him, I think. Maybe I can. No, you have to, just next to his name.
Yeah, I'm trying to, but it's not doing it.
Army will be right with you.
Yeah, it's happening.
So, bear with me, I'm going to try. The way I can do this is if I unmute all.
So what's happening here is that unfortunately, Dave is yeah, there we go. So Armando, if you could try unmuting yourself now.
Hey, Dave.
Oh, we got something.
Yeah, I don't know who that
Can you
is.
hear me now?
This is Brad.
There's Armando. I hear you. I hear you, Armando. That's great.
Oh my God. What a labyrinth.
Sorry about that.
Anyway, this
Yeah,
is my
I know.
first time on this. I was just
There you go.
I was
Sorry
going
about
to
that.
follow up with the fact that you guys were saying that there's not going to be any no real teaching for new instructors. But if you want to do something smaller, we could probably do that like on a weekend. you know, to usher in some, I've got some potential names to come in anyway, who are ski instructors. And so something smaller scale might work if that's on the table.
Hey, Army, thanks a lot for that. I think that could definitely happen. Could definitely work. You know, you imagine smaller groups, you know, just doing it differently, right? Which is kind of our MO right now. So that's great. Really, thanks. And for those of you who don't know, Army's also on the technical committee, so that's super helpful. Brad Sutton.
Brad Sutton disappeared. So now it's Brenda Brooks up next. Brenda.
Sorry, just figuring out how to unmute. Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, so
Loud and clear.
Just to Army's point, I think if Paul, if you'll let me, just a little bit of clarification. The reason that we were thinking that training may not be critical this year is with the fewer participants, fewer kids registering for the year. And if we have all of our returning volunteers, we need to keep our returning gang busy. So I think really we were kind of looking at how do we make sure that those who have been involved forever are still feel valued and are able to stay busy while not bringing in a whole bunch of people who are new to the organization, as well as from a program director's standpoint. We're going to have a lot of new on our plate this year. And so managing just the returning gang might make life a little bit easier for those of us who are in that type of leadership role.
Thanks, Brenda. That's a good clarification. I think it would be situational about it. Like I said, that kind of matching, just having closed, we know we have less, but just having closed it, we have to do the matching and see where we've got some holes. And again, if there's a way to do it and it could be just that we have them for a couple of days and it's a sales opportunity and we get them when things are better. I think we can look at it from a couple different angles. So more work to do there, but it's great to have the willingness.
Excellent. So no more questions. Thanks for that message from Brad. That's great. Thank you about that. No more new business. So that brings us to almost our close. We do have one last motion. Ooh, whoopee. Here we go. The last motion on the table tonight, everybody, is the motion to adjourn the 2020 AGM of Track 3 at 8:17 p.m. on Thursday, October the 22nd, 2020. Audrey Dixon, look, everybody's good at this now. So Audrey is our first. Brenda Brooks is seconding. We will now post the poll. And you have 10 seconds now. And polling is closed. I can't believe no one voted not in favor. We want the meeting to keep going. Oh, okay, fine, fair enough. There it is. So I hereby declare the 2020 AGM of Track 3 adjourned right now at 8:18. That's great. And on behalf of the board of directors, thanks for everybody for showing up. It's been very gratifying to see so many people here. And we didn't have to compete with Donald Trump and the other guy, the big debate tonight. So best wishes to all of you. Stay very healthy, and hopefully we see you all very soon.
Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care, folks.
Thanks, everyone.